Hello, First Church. Thanks for taking some time to join me so I can give you a brief update on our plans for worship for this coming season, beginning next week, the first week of October. Before I give you those plans and some of the details about how it's going to work and what's going to be required of you, I'd actually like to begin by just sharing a short email I received from someone in this congregation a few weeks ago. This person was looking through the history of First Church, a little booklet that's downstairs in our church library. And she found this quote from Reverend Izzard Mandela, our founding pastor, who was reflecting on ministry during the 1918 flu pandemic. This is a quote from him and what he said about that time. He said, "The epidemic was so serious that schools were closed and people were prohibited from meeting in their places of worship. One Sunday, we therefore met in the open air near church. On another Lord's Day, we were permitted to gather in the church, but everyone had to wear a mask to prevent the spreading of the contagion." The person concluded that email and she said, "I found this to be strangely comforting, for indeed God is faithful through all generations." I found that email comforting too. You know, the plan I'm going to tell you today, it's maybe not what all of us would prefer. It's going to be different than what we're accustomed to in ordinary times, and yet we can remember that God has been with First Church through difficult times before. He's carried us through a lot in our 100-plus year history, and we can trust that He'll carry us through this as well. So here's our plan for the fall season. Beginning Sunday, October 4, we are going to begin hosting in-person worship services here in the sanctuary of First Christian Reformed Church. That's the good news. The bad news is we can't host all of you at once. So here is what we're going to do. Every Sunday for this coming season, we are going to try hosting two different worship services each week. There will be a 9 o'clock service and a 10:30 service. So identical services, but at different times. So 9 o'clock and 10:30. And participation in those services will be capped at 50 people. What that means for you is that we need to know if you're going to come to those services. We're going to have a sign-up form. Actually, you can find the link, hopefully right below here, and you can go sign up right now if you need to. But we need you to sign up for the service that you're going to attend if you're planning to attend in person here at First Church. If you can't attend in person, we will also live stream the 9 o'clock service, and that will be immediately archived on YouTube, and we can tell you a little bit later how to access that if that's what your plans are. But 50 people, 9 o'clock and 10:30, please RSVP, and if you sign up, please show up to make sure that you don't take someone else's spot. All right, so I just want to take a few minutes to walk you through what to expect when you come to church. So you've made your reservation online, it's Sunday morning, you're here, you're excited and ready to worship. What do you need to do before you enter the building? The first thing you need to do is put on your mask. Everyone except those who are leading worship, so those who are preaching or on our worship team, everyone else is required to wear a mask at all times while in the building. So make sure that you take your mask along, because we just prefer to avoid that awkward conversation where we have to send you home and tell you to go watch the live stream this Sunday. So if you could just do that out of love and respect for everyone that you're worshiping with, we'd really appreciate it. Put your mask on before you enter the building. The second thing is, when you get here, we know you'll be excited to go in, but don't go in too quickly. You're going to actually wait, especially during the month of October while we're figuring this out. You're going to wait. There will be ushers up at the top of the stairs, and they will call you in when we're ready for you, because we need to usher all of you to a seat. So that's a little bit different than previously what you would have been used to here at First Church, but you will need to be ushered in so that we can bring you to an assigned seat, and we'll show you how that works right now. Okay, so once you've been invited into the worship space by your usher, you'll see another usher down the aisle. And we will ask you to proceed directly into the worship space. Once you've been invited in, we can't have a lot of standing around the back, talking, have people mingling back there. That's just not something we can do in this season. So instead, you'll proceed directly to where your usher wants to direct you. So right now, I'll pretend I'm the usher, because we start being ushered in from the front. So we give people the good seats right away. If you're here early, you get one of the good seats in the front. And It's very important that you actually go to the spot that you're ushered into, because we have different pews reserved for different services, just for the sake of cleanliness and hygiene. And so you'll be ushered in, and to assure appropriate social distance, we're going to ask you to sit between the two arrows. You see there are these arrows in the pews, and we're going to ask you to leave those where they are as well. But there are these arrows in the pews, and we're going to ask you to sit between here so that we can make sure that you have appropriate social distance between people. And that will be your spot for the service until you're once again dismissed and ushered back out. And we'll dismiss people starting in the back and ask you to leave and go directly outside. So again, we're not having a lot of socializing inside of the worship space, because we want to there's just not the room in the space for that here, so we want to be as safe as possible. Okay, now we just want to say a word or two about our children and worship, and how they can expect to participate in this service. As I hope you all know, our kids are very important to us here at First Church. We're an intergenerational family, and our kids are 100% full members of that family. So it's important to us that our kids be able to participate fully in worship, and also in age-appropriate ways. Now, unfortunately, in the season, we're not able to offer our regular Children in Worship program for kids ages 3 through kindergarten. It just doesn't work with the volunteers and also with the social distancing needs that we have. However, we still really want to encourage families with children to come. We know some of you parents are maybe nervous about this. You're worried that your kids are going to make too much noise or be a disruption, perhaps, to others in worship. Let me just assure you, the rest of us are not worried about it. We are delighted to have your kids here and to be together as a full family of God. But we also know that, well, I have to admit, as a preacher, I know that sometimes my messages can make kids feel a little squirmy, and it can feel a little long. So we want to have some other things for kids to do during worship services. And what we have right now is we have these story bags. So when you come into church, one of the first things you'll see is this rack full of story bags. And so there's a different bag for, say, Gideon, there's one for Joseph, there's one for Jonah, and these bags have different activities for your kids to do during the message. So your Jonah bag has, I guess that's a Jonah doll. There is a, I think I have the wrong one here. Hannah, sorry, it's Hannah, that makes more sense. There's a Hannah First Steps in Prayer book for your kids to read. There's a whole Hannah activity folder. There are some markers and crayons and things to weave together for the Hannah story. So we want to invite you to take one of these for your kids each Sunday. They can try a different one every week, and then we'll return it to a different spot so it has time to get clean before, and for the germs to go away before next week's service. And we'll direct you to where that spot is when you come in. But just want to again reiterate that your kids are so important. We want to worship together as a family, and if there's any way that we can help you do that in addition to providing these bags, please let us know. So thanks again for joining us today. We think that's about all you need to know about our upcoming worship plan. Once again, as always, we'd ask you for patience and grace as we get things figured out. We're all learning here. And of course, if you have suggestions or questions, feel free to contact a member of the church staff or your household elder or deacon. Also, we recognize that some of you are not able or not comfortable with joining us in person at this time, and that is just fine too. We are really have been working on our live stream this fall and getting ready for this and trying to make that experience as good as possible for you. So what you need to know is that the 9 o'clock service will be live streamed each week. And one of the things we'd invite you to do, if you're comfortable, is to find worship buddies. You know, if there's another person or another family who might join you. I know some of you have been doing that for the past 6 months and have had very positive experiences that way. But just get a slightly bigger connection with the body of believers by inviting another individual or family to worship with you, if that's something you're able or comfortable with doing. The other thing is that live streams at 9 o'clock, it is available immediately after the service. Now, some of you have told us that you've had trouble finding it. And we're not sure exactly why YouTube makes it so hard to find sometimes. But what you need to do is one of two things. The first is you can go in your search bar in YouTube, and you can just type in First Christian Reformed Church Denver live stream, and it should pop up there right away. The other thing you can do is there's a little tab on the First Church live stream page or videos page on YouTube, and you can click past live streamed videos, and that will give you access to that morning's video. The third option is to wait for the 10 to 12 hours that YouTube takes to have it show up on our front page for some reason, but we'd rather that you be able to join us a little quicker than that. So if you have problems, once again, feel free to call the church office. We will do our best to help you out. And again, we just pray for your patience and your grace in this season, and we invite you to join us either here in person or online in whatever way you can in this time. So thank you.